This is it. 3 more battles to go. Chun is back, and this week I have a 4th gen OU match against the legend himself. The one, the only Earthworm. Champion of some of the biggest tournaments that Smogon has to offer, such as the World Cup of Pokemon, Smogon Tour Season 6, and the Smogon Premier League. I'll have to give a little history on how this match came about. This took place a few weeks before Smogon Tour 14 started. In recent months, Smogon has created a challenge called Victory Road in the Ruins of Alph section on the Smogon forums. It works very similar to the YouTube Battle Federation, for those that were familiar with that back in the day. There is an Elite Four, but instead of you playing different tiers in the same generation, you battle an Elite Four member in the OU metagame from each previous generation. So from Generation 4, DPP, all the way down to Generation 1, which is Red, Blue, Yellow. So you had to be pretty adept at all those metagames. The prize is Ops on the Ruins of Alph channel on IRC if you beat them without losing. But if you have to re-challenge any of them, but you still manage to beat them, you get voice Ops on the channel instead. Earthworm was the Elite Four member for 4th gen OU, so I figured this was my chance to play the legend himself, though I didn't manage to win the challenge, unfortunately. But anyway, I've been on a losing streak lately, so let's see if I can turn things around with this one before going out. I lead with Raikou, he leads with Tyranitar. Assuming this to be Scarfed, I immediately switch to Bronzong to avoid the possible Earthquake. He switches out as well though and goes to his own Bronzong, probably scouting for Aura Sphere and to check my playstyle, see if I would use it off the bat. I decide here to set up Stealth Rock, thinking he'd do the same, but he actually goes back to Tyranitar knowing I would set it up. I then realize his Tyranitar's not Scarf and he plans to set up rocks of his own, so I go to Gyarados before they go up. So I'm thinking he's running especially defensive Tyranitar since he brought it in on a Bronzong. Decide to scout for Stone Edge here since T-Tar typically carries it like most other sets. And I'm going to go back to Bronzong, and he does try for Stone Edge just to scout how I'm playing. Here I decided to just go for Payback. I was fully expecting a Heatran switch in, so I didn't want to just go for Trick off the bat. He stays in though and shows Crunch as well and gets a defense drop. Very risky on my part since if this is specially defensive Tyranitar, he could have Fire Blast. Realizing he might try for the KO, I decide to switch out. So I can try to trick Toxic Orb later. He shows he has Pursuit as well though. Bronzong ends up getting wrecked. But now I know his whole set, so I show my own Tyranitar to bluff the EQ. I know he's going to switch out here, so I go for Crunch instead. He goes back to Bronzong, so reversal rolls there, except I don't get the drop. I'm expecting Earthquake here, so I go to Arrow to scout for it, though Gyro Ball is a possibility as well. So I'm thinking I can just taunt it since I'm running the standard Life Orb Aerodactyl set. But he actually shows he has Toxic, which isn't too common on Bronzong. And I decide here to switch out. I might have thought Gyro Ball was possible this turn, so I was scouting for it by going back to Bronzong. He Toxics again, expecting me to go to something else like Gyarados. I'm thinking he's going to switch now since Bronzong can't do anything to other Bronzong, so I predict the switch by going for Trick now, but he stays in and shows Protect, which is definitely not seen on Bronzong at all. But I guess me bringing in Bronzong got him cautious. I'm thinking the jig is up and Earthworm's not going to allow something else to get tricked. So I'm thinking he'll stay in, so I pay back, but he does switch back to Tyranitar to trap Bronzong and finish it off, which is an excellent move on his part. But here's where the mind games take place. Earthworm was predicting me to stay in since Pursuit would finish Bronzong off, and he does outspeed Bronzong. So he goes for Crunch to catch me before I get the trick off, but I switch back to Raikou. I take a huge amount, so it looks like he's running a lot of attack EV, so I go for Aura Sphere. I get a crit, but it probably didn't matter since he was running so much attack on his Tyranitar. He sends out Bronzong nonetheless. I believe I was thinking I need to get Bronzong low enough to where Magneton could trap it and KO it. And I'm seeing that Earthworm is running stall, so Raikou doesn't do too well against that. So I sack it and Thunderbolt to get some damage on it. He finishes Raikou with Payback. I bring in Magneton as planned. I lock in the Thunderbolt to do as much as I can, thinking he doesn't have Earthquake, but he completely floors me by showing that he does. Showing Payback last turn was a great move since he didn't want to give me all the information on his Bronzong set, but then again it's Earthworm. I've done enough damage to Bronzong where anything can finish it off though, so I go to Gyarados. I immediately go for Waterfall because it's still too risky to set up since I haven't seen his answer to my sweepers yet. He does reveal his answer here though, as Celebi. Assuming this is physically defensive, I don't want Gyarados catching a Thunder Wave, so I go back to Bronzong to absorb it. But he actually is going to show that he's packing the U-turn, and he's going to finish Bronzong off. But the good news is here I get switch advantage. and he's actually going to show that he's got a Magnezone, and I have no idea what set it could be, so I decided to go to the only safe switch I have for it now, Aerodactyl. I'm going to go immediately for the Earthquake to force it out. He is going to switch out, and he's also going to reveal that he has a Clefable, which is a nice choice to combat other stall teams in OU thanks to Magic Guard, but it takes almost half though, and I'm getting destroyed, so I only really have one chance to win at this point. I need to get Tyranitar in and set up a Dragon Dance to sweep, and I also have to hope his last can't deal with +1 T-Tar. I know Clefable always runs support moves, so I go for Taunt to stop any chance of T-Tar getting crippled, and I plan to just sack Arrow at this point, since it can't get past Celebi, and he shows Seismic Toss to finish Arrow off. I bring T-Tar in his plan, I immediately set up a Dragon Dance, and he reveals his last, which is Gliscor, and this is it. I've got 2 chances to KO Gliscor barring a crit from his Earthquake. If Sandvale Hacks kicks in twice, I lose. If not, I win. I go for Ice Punch, and it lands on the first try. KOing Gliscor. He's going to bring Clefable back in, but at this point, everything completely turned around for me. I think here Earthworm was hoping that I might be running Life Orb, so his plan was to try to wear Tyranitar down enough to where something could finish it off. But because I'm running Shuka Berry, that's not the case. Plus, I'm running Ice, Ground, and Dark coverage, which means all of his remaining team members are either going to be hit super effectively, or they're just not healthy enough at this point to take a stab +1 crunch. So this is going to be a Tyranitar sweep. And he's just going to protect here on the last turn. But Bronzong's going to go down as well, and that's going to be the match. But this was a pretty nice game. I'm glad I got to play against Earthworm before I stopped playing. I always wanted to, just to see how I would measure up. He had a very, very unique stall team. So for anyone that still thinks all stall teams are the same in 4th gen, this is further proof that you can be creative with stall. But anyway guys, the next match is against another very high caliber player, so definitely be on the lookout. But until then guys, Chun is out. Peace.